Well, today I do not have a cigar in hand because it's going to be a different kind of video. A question that comes up a lot, well, I wouldn't say a lot because this channel isn't huge, but one of the most common questions I got was about the labels on our cigars here in Canada. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Now, I can't speak for all of Canada, but at least in Ontario where I live, when you go to buy a cigar, your label looks like that. Now, sometimes you peel this label off and the company has the original label underneath with their branding and everything on it, and sometimes they don't. Yeah, it's something that happens in Canada and it's been happening for a while now. Here's an example. Does not have a little brown label that has the company's branding on it, right? So at some point, our government here in this country of Canada, a once very, very free country and not as free as it used to be, decided that fancy branding and fancy labels and even flavored tobacco was targeting people that were too young to smoke. This is kind of ridiculous in my opinion, because if you go to a convenience store and you want to buy any tobacco product, even cigarettes, there's these cabinets behind the counter, they have these gray doors, and everything's hidden because they don't want the dirty secret of tobacco sales getting out, I suppose. Essentially, it feels like they're censoring tobacco sales. However, if you walk into the LCBO, where in Canada all of our liquor is controlled, so each province has their own control board. In Ontario, we have the Liquor Control Board of Ontario. You have to go to specific stores to buy liquor. That law is changing a bit. You can get some beer in some convenience stores and grocery stores, but for the most part, it's specific to the LCBO. If I walk into the LCBO, I can see a big display case with a bunch of bourbon, for example, and all of the branding for the bourbon is there. They even have sometimes cardboard displays. They'll occasionally have a person who's on location giving out a free taste test of a product. So you can walk into the liquor store, you can see all the branding, you can even have free taste tests. If you walk into a tobacconist, all your cigars got to have these little brown labels on them unless you bought them before, like if they're old stock or whatever, which is more than just hypocritical. It's something I find to be actually kind of bizarre, because alcohol, of all controlled substances, is the most common involved in accidents that involve intoxication, domestic dispute. Probably more young people sneak a drink than sneak their parents' cigarettes, at least now. Like when I was a kid, it was a different story. And I just find it a bit strange that one controlled substance, such as alcohol, you can have all the branding available. You can even go into the few convenience stores that sell beer, and there's your case of beer, blue light right on it, full branding, no problem. But you go over to the counter, you can't see Players Light, Export A, or Backwoods. It's all going to be behind a gray cabinet. So it's more than a little hypocritical that one controlled substance can allow the branding to be visible and another can't. We also in Ontario have specific stores to selling cannabis. And in those stores, your cannabis products, a lot of the edibles are actual candy. So I personally am an occasional user of the cannabis, so I'm not knocking it. I think the legalization of it was a reasonably smart move for those people who are responsibly using the products. Make that clear. But when you go to the cannabis store, You can buy a little pack of gummies, and it has to be in some bland packaging too. I can actually show you an example. When you go to buy a cigar, this is what the label is going to look like. Nice and censored, right? You go to a cannabis shop and you buy a cannabis product, this is what it's going to look like. Nice and censored. It even has a safety device to prevent you from getting to it. When you go to the Liquor Control Board of Ontario and you buy a product, this is what it looks like. No censoring of the branding. All three of these are controlled substances. All three of these, when abused, are not good. All three of these have health implications, maybe far less with the edible version of cannabis, but the smoke stuff will probably do some damage to your lungs. Yet only one of them gets away with not being censored. And it makes me think, at least in Ontario, that's because it's all sold at the Liquor Control Board of Ontario, right? All those jobs are government jobs. That business is a government association. The cannabis stuff and the tobacco stuff you can sell as an independent without the government being your employer. So that's probably the reason that the alcohol products aren't censored the same way the cannabis and the tobacco products are. Anyways, as I like to say, keep it a hobby, not a habit. As always, take the time to take her easy, and hopefully now you have a little more understanding of how things operate in the country that I live in. Cheers.